It feels really strange to be making this video on a day when it's 100 degrees plus, but it is October, so I guess this does make a little bit of sense. Hi everybody, in today's episode of Cindy Gives Unsolicited Opinions on Things, except they were slightly solicited, I am talking about when it is too early to decorate for Christmas. When I asked you guys for things for hot takes, especially my patrons, this one came up and I was like, that's an interesting question, because it does feel like, especially in the world of Instagram, right around this time, even in September, you start seeing like the fucking holly leaves and wreaths and trees and shit going up. Like, people want to get their Christmas decorations up super early. And I kind of understand it. I understand that for influencer type people, especially if they want to get brand deals or if they want to get sponsorships or if they want to be able to do like get the traffic to their posts, they want to get their decorating content up before people decorate. Otherwise, you're putting your decorating content up to give people tips on decorating after most people have already decorated, right? And I guess the traditional time to decorate for Christmas is what, the day after Thanksgiving? Question mark? Black Friday? I don't know. I think that's where this is coming from, although it might not just be influencers. It could be anybody who decides to decorate super early. I have a few thoughts. When don't I have a few thoughts? I'm going to acknowledge not everybody celebrates Christmas. There are people who don't celebrate religions at all. There are pagans who decorate with some similar things to Christmas decorations because they were pagan symbols first. It would be silly for me to say all that and not mention that here, at least in the United States, Christmas explodes all over everything right about now. Right about now. Side note to all of this, who else has noticed that like in the big box stores like Target, they did their gigantic school supply sections, but they didn't get picked over the same way they always do because nobody was heading back to school that week, and like the backpacks looked so sad. And then Halloween, all the stuff for Halloween's been out with all the candy, but because at least here there's not going to be trick-or-treating, the candy aisles are like super stocked all the time. Like, I'm not laughing at the plight of retail employees so much as like a lot of these merchandising and stocking decisions get made so early that you see that it's like relics from a different world. I have noticed at the craft supply store and in my local like big box stores that the Christmas stuff is already out, so they're definitely thinking about it. I'm not much of a decorator at all, in general. I worked for Trader Joe's for many years, and at the store I was at the longest, I also was in charge of store decorations for a majority of that time, so I would have to decorate the store for everything. For holidays, for Fearless Flyers, for any random promotion that we had to do, I was usually the one decorating the store. I kind of used up a lot of my decoration mojo there. You think it's not a finite amount of mojo, but I see it more as like a self-feeding, like self-replicating, like a sourdough starter. You gotta feed it, and then it has to grow, and then you have to maintain it. And all of my maintaining effort was pushed into Trader Joe's, but there wasn't a lot coming back, so it never really grew here. I do a little bit of decorating. I put a couple of things up on my mantle and whatever, and my kitchen table, and I've tried to get a little bit better at it. Generally speaking, I have kind of like seasonal stuff, not really seasonal, more like I have kind of like wintry stuff, and then main part of the year pseudo-summery stuff, and then some like more fall-like situations that involve sunflowers, and then a couple of Halloween-esque things, but not really. The fall and the brown stuff stays for a while until the day after Thanksgiving, and then we put the tree up that weekend. But it doesn't always go like that. If you ask me when it's too early to decorate for Christmas, my answer isn't actually in an amount of time. I actually feel more inclined to tell you about my complicated feelings around holidays and decorating in the first place, because it actually comes to bear. When I was a kid, a wee lass, I was raised in a family that was not religious. My parents neither attended church, my dad was agnostic, my mom just didn't give a crap. We celebrated Christmas and Easter, but in a secular way. There wasn't really a lot of religion around. The closest we got to religious with it was watching a Charlie Brown Christmas. But at the same time, I was a fierce proponent of tradition, our family's tradition. So we had a Noel train that we would swap and make say Leon. That was a tradition. There was the pipe cleaner nativity scene that my great grandma made that I have now. You may have seen it in previous Vlogmas vlogs. Setting that up, that's a tradition. Going and having Christmas Eve dinner at my grandma's house and then doing Christmas Day at our house and then seeing my other grandparents, that was a tradition. Going to my grandma's house on New Year's Eve with my cousins, that was a tradition. I was hardcore, and the first year I think we weren't gonna go to grandma's for New Year's Eve because my grandma had some other thing going on. I got really upset. I was like, but grandma, it's tradition. I was super into it. And when I went off to college, I would come home, and even though I hated coming home because my parents were hoarders and being in their house was really hard, I also wanted to be home for the traditional stuff until I started working at a grocery store. I was working at Safeway. Safeway's open on Thanksgiving, and so that's when I started having to miss family Thanksgiving, was because I would be working until 4 p.m. and I didn't drive. So even if I was willing to be stuck in traffic for hours and hours to get home, I couldn't have done it anyway. But I still wanted to be there for as much as I could. And then my dad died. Within the 3 years after my dad died, I got engaged, I got married, and I had Kat. For a little while there, I was super excited about doing holiday stuff. You know, had my mom, and my mom would come up and we did Christmas. I almost had Kat on Christmas. I actually went into the hospital on Christmas Day that year in false labor. For a little bit, I was excited again about the holidays. RJ was born when he was like 8 months old or so, not even 8 months old. However old he was, between March and November. My mom had to miss Thanksgiving that year. She was living in Southern California at the time and was in school, and for some reason wasn't able to make it up, so she sent us her recipes with a great note at the end that says that she wishes she could be there with us, but she knew we'd be doing great. And my sisters and I cooked our first Thanksgiving meal without our mom that year. And then the following February, only a few days after my birthday, my mom died. At the time, my baby sister was 8 months pregnant with her oldest. RJ wasn't even 1 yet. And it was really hard. And then within the next couple of years, my ex and I separated and then divorced. After my mom died, I didn't care about holidays anymore. I sorta tried, kinda sorta, but like decorating. My ex-husband had to drive a lot of that for the first couple of years after, and then Jesse kind of helped. When Jesse and I got together, he sort of drove some of it, and we had some excitement like doing stuff for the kids, but like decorating and getting all like super into it, it just wasn't, it didn't feel like right to me. It's like all of the things I cared so much about went out the window when I lost my parents. To add to that, suddenly now I'm sharing custody. Our custody is worked out, so we swap Thanksgiving and Christmas every year. And that was hard too, having to learn how to be on, say, Christmas Day without my kids. When you're used to having your kids around and you have a Christmas Day without them, you would think it was just like another day off, right? But it wasn't. It felt kind of hollow, and I didn't like that. And my family started having our fake Thanksgiving. Now, I'm also going to add here that I recognize that the holiday of Thanksgiving in the United States is a very fraught holiday when you think about the actual history of it and the actual things that were going on. My family does not celebrate like the Pilgrims or whatever. We celebrate being with each other. We use that as like the touchstone kind of day, but we don't actually have it on the actual day anyway. We do it on a different day because of people working for grocery stores and people working in retail and it just being too hard to get everybody together. So we would have our fake Thanksgiving on a different day. It's our irreverent way of dealing with family and holiday. But I'm recognizing that there are a lot of people who don't celebrate American Thanksgiving because of the history that surrounds it, and I'm acknowledging that. Fake Thanksgiving made things a lot better for me in some ways because we scheduled it around when there was custody of the kids and when people could get together and we would see our family. It'd be the one day of a year our entire family would get together. But then doing it that way made Christmas just feel even more blah. We wouldn't see family, generally speaking. If we saw my sister who lives in the same state as I do, it wouldn't be until around New Year's usually. And even if we had the kids, it was just us and the kids. There wasn't going to be any visiting family or whatever because our family is so scattered now. It just didn't have the same feeling it did when I was a kid, which made it really hard for me to connect with the holiday that I didn't feel any religious significance towards, that it was all tied up in family and tradition, and it felt like those things were yanked out from under me. And that brings us to now, where I'm still at. Every year I've tried a little bit harder to decorate or whatever, but ironically, as I have tried a little harder, my kids have not cared as much because they're teenagers now, and so bit myself in the ass with that one. I didn't tell you all this story to depress you, but to explain that, like, when you ask me the question of when it's too early to decorate for Christmas, my thought is, does it fucking matter? That's my thought, because like, as far as I'm concerned, if you are super into it and it makes you happy, then do it however early you want to. Not because it takes away from anything. They're gonna just be like, let fall breathe. Like, I get that. Like, and in this California, we don't really have much of any fall. We have like summer and then hotter fall time summer. To me, it's not about when it's appropriate to decorate for a season, but does the decorating make you happy? Whatever the season may be, whatever the holiday might be. Does it make you happy? Are you a fucking spooky ass bitch? And like, if you could keep Halloween stuff around your house full time, you would. Then why don't you? Because people are gonna be like, it's not Halloween. Like, who fucking cares? It's not their house. Even when people leave their lights on all year, like, because they're lazy or because they just don't feel like changing, like, who cares? I remember people used to judge people in our neighborhood for leaving their lights on all year. Like, who gives a shit? Even if you go full Griswold with it and your whole yard is like blinking, if it makes you happy, then fucking do it. This year, if COVID allows, we're gonna see my sister on Christmas. It's the last Christmas that we're gonna have where Kat is still in high school, because next year Kat will be with their dad. And I'm really looking forward to it, and I really hope we get it. And I don't know if we're going to or not, but I really hope we do. So it's hard for me to like judge anybody. Like, if you're decorating early because you want to get paid for some sponsorship, then get paid. You get paid. Go you for getting paid. And if you want to decorate early because the look of pine and holly or whatever makes you smile, then go you. Holly your fucking house up. And if you decorate you decorate on a specific day every single year because that's how it's done and that's how it's always done, and you are a stickler for tradition, believe me, I understand that. Go you. Maintain your traditions because they can feel so powerful in a time when everything else feels like it's in upheaval. And I mean, shit, so many of us are stuck inside our homes right now. Putting Christmas decorations up early could feel like bonus fun. I don't know. But whatever holidays you celebrate or don't celebrate, whatever decorations you like to have up or don't decorate, just take it from me as somebody who still to this day, like, it was hard for me to make this video without crying, even though it has been 20 years almost. It'll be 20 years next year since my dad died, and it's, I think, 15 years since my mom died. No, wait, RJ was on 13 years. I have to count versus on ages. It's been many, many, many years since I lost my parents. It has been 11 years since Russell and I split up. And yet, the pain from those things has stuck with me. And I have been dealing with it for so long that any joy I get out of any holiday or any decorations means the world to me. And with as sick as I am now, it's just, with as sick as I am now, and with as bad as I'm feeling constantly, I could use a little bit of joy. So I'll take it where I can get it, and you should too. So that's my answer. How early is it to decorate for Christmas? It's never too early. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, decorate for whatever holiday you want to. Put your Festivus, was it Festivus branch or whatever it is? Put it up. Happiness and joy are valuable things, and they're easy to take for granted. So don't. All right? That has been my surprisingly morose holiday decorations conversation. Join me for Vlogmas in December to see more. I don't know if I'm doing Vlogmas or not. I'd love to hear your thoughts on decorating for the holidays, how early it is, or if you have any stories like what I just told you that you would like to share it in the comments below. You guys are awesome. Stay safe, wash your hands, make sure to have your plan to vote all ready to go. Subscribe, and until next time, my dudes, peace out.